Hey guys, Mr. Tinkerer here, and I wanted to go over glass bedding a stock. Here I have my mosin nagant, and I'll show you some other things about this gun in another video, but I wanted to show you how to glass bed. There are other videos out there, some of them are pretty good. These are just some of the things I've done. What we have here is an Archangel stock. Not a particular fan of the look of this stock, but I do like the fact that it has a external magazine, so that you can use that. You insert a magazine through here. It's a little bit faster to load, being that I'm going to be doing some dangerous game hunting with this, namely grizzly and brown bear and black bear. It's important for me to be able to load quicker. In here, inside the stock, you can see that I have taken a Dremel and I've notched several areas. It's kind of hard to see without great light, but notched several areas with my Dremel and a cutoff wheel just to make sure that everything is held in place. Now, there are certain areas I didn't do. Back here, there's a little insert that will slide out. That's if you put a chimney trigger, something I want to do in the future. I don't plan on it getting back that far, or in the trigger area. Don't want to really mess that up. You can also notice that I didn't do any notching right here. There's a spring that is part of your ejector that we don't want to mess with. I will put a little bit back here, but mostly to support the rear of the rear tank. Now, what I've done to prepare the action is, of course, disassemble it completely. All of this white that you see is actually modeling clay. I fill all of those holes, and then I use a razor blade, which is laying around here somewhere, and cut it off flush. Anything that is a negative space, where if anything oozed into it, you would get a permanent fixture. Basically, you don't want anything that is a external protrusion in your glass bedding, because that effectively makes your gun now a one piece. You will not get it apart. Also, what I've done is used some mold release, used a Q-tip, which is right there, and did about 3 coats on all the surfaces, kind of shiny. You can actually see a little bit of a change in the finish. That is the mold release there. Did 3 coats over all the areas, even the areas where I don't intend anything to get on. You never know where it's going to end up. I am using the gel, which is a little bit easier to control. I'm also going to be using some atomized aluminum powder. This stuff is mixed up in a 1-to-1 ratio by volume, not by weight. I don't stick closely to the strict numbers. I do it by volume, but more as a more by eye. I haven't had any issues with it. I've glass bedded about 4 rifles now, and all of them have turned out perfectly fine. Once you put this together, you're going to lightly tighten your screws, lightly. You do that because you don't want it to, you don't want it to squeeze out, but you want enough glass bedding underneath that when it is all hardened and you tighten everything up, you're firmly putting it in that glass bedding. You could probably do it tightly, but I've always done it lightly, and it works out pretty well. My wife's Mini 14 that I did, actually you have to pretty snugly pull down on the trigger guard for it to latch. That one worked out pretty well. So I'm going to pause this. I'm going to mix some up. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then I'll get on to glass bedding. Okay guys, I have this thoroughly mixed. Just using a screwdriver, I'm just going to use that to spread it as well. It doesn't take much of this. Most of these guns fit into the stock fairly well as it is. This stock is actually pretty tight, so we're just going to spread just a little bit. Okay, I know the lighting's not the best. I'm going to do my best to hold everything still. Alright, so what I'm going to do is spread this into the areas where I want it to be. we want to make sure that it gets a hold, so I want to make sure it gets into all these cracks that I've created, or all these cuts. We don't want it to be moving around. We don't want it to be separating from the stock. So that's, I'm going to make sure it gets into all these cracks. Now, you don't want to go up too high. You come up over your stock, you can end up getting some on the outside. That's not a huge deal. It can be cut off if you get to it early enough. Some people will actually tape the outside of their stock to make sure that anything that squeezes out does not stay on the outside of the stock. I just use a razor blade and cut it off. It's a little tedious. Yes, it can be a little difficult, but it does work. It's worked for me every time I've used it, especially if you're going to be on a synthetic stock. No big deal. Wood stock, you might have to refinish some areas if you go too deep with a razor blade. So I could see how some people might not want to do that. So I'm going to finish spreading this around. I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. All right, guys, here we have it. It's all kind of buttered in there. You can see it a little bit better because it's not all just black. I do have to clean up around that rear screw hole. Don't want that to seize the screw in place. I did butter inside that well right there on all sides. I didn't want to get a whole lot on the bottom. I managed to keep most of it off of that. You'll also notice the chamber stops around here, or the action rather. I've went ahead and gone all the way up to the end of the chamber. There's no point in not doing it. There's probably no huge benefit in doing it, but I have floated the barrel all the way out here. You can see some lighter areas. That's actually sand marks where I actually went ahead and put some sandpaper underneath the barrel and sanded it. This gun is Duracoated. I'm going to do another coat of Duracoat after everything because I did have to do some modifications. I'll show you those later. But you can see where that lug stops. That's considerably, that lug and that line in front of that lug, that's actually where the barrel begins. So I've gone ahead and that is where I'm bedding up to. This is not going to flex over here. So I'm going to go ahead and seat this in, lightly do the screws, and then we'll talk a little bit about the benefits of glass bedding. Okay, guys, all screwed in, lightly screwed in. You can see some is oozed out. I'm not concerned about that. I will clean it up when it's all done. You'll notice that I didn't tint any of this. Some of this does come with tint. I've used up all of my black tint. Not sure what else to use, so it is what it is. Maybe I'll Duracoat the stock one day. Might do a flat dark earth or something like that. I don't know why this thing isn't focusing. But right here at the back, you can actually see a little bit of a void. Focus, camera, focus. That's a little bit better. You can see a little bit of a void back here. I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. It will end up covering the top of this and probably covering the back of the stock. Something I can fix with my Dremel. I have already coated the top of this with release. So this, I was expecting this. I was expecting some oozing. That is fine. I have no issues with that. So I'm gonna fix that real quick. Show you what this looks like, and we'll talk about the benefits of glass bedding and which products I'm using. Okay, there you can see I've filled it in. That's gonna set up nicely. You can see some spots that have oozed out. You're gonna end up having to do some cleanup later. No big deal. It doesn't take long, and with a Dremel it is a little bit messy, but it's quick. Alright, so we're going to talk real quick about the product I'm using. What I am using is called Acra Glass Gel. I've used this several times. I haven't had any issues with this. I have a friend who doesn't really like it. He uses Marine Tex. He's had great success with Marine Tex. I have no issues with that. I haven't used Marine Tex, but he's had this turn soggy on him. What he said, he used a demo tub, and I bought this a while ago. I've used my first setup, and then I ended up having to buy more. This is an entire kit available from Brownells and probably other places. And this was also from Brownells. They have other powders. I think they have titanium, iron, steel, atomized aluminum. What this is a filler, and it adds impact resistance to your Acra glass or marine text, whatever you're using. The kit that I bought does come with the release agent. This is essential, so it works pretty well. But anyway, the whole kit was $35-$40. This was I think $8. Modeling clay available at most art stores. I don't know, $6-7. What this stuff does is it locks everything in your rifle together. It eliminates any movement, shot after shot. It results in a more accurate rifle, a more reliable rifle, and you won't have any issues with the with rounds wandering on you, and everything stays tighter. I've had great success with my wife's Mini 14. We went from her 3-inch accuracy at 100 yards down to about 1.5 inches, maybe 1.25 inches. I have done other things to hers that I actually need to go out and test her accuracy again, but I'm pretty sure that we're probably getting close to 1 MOA with a Mini 14. So there you guys have it. You let this dry for several hours. You don't really want to mess with it, so just set it aside, and after, I'd say 12, 24 hours, you can separate it. Some people will actually separate it early just to make sure their gun doesn't stick. As long as you've done everything right, you shouldn't have any worries about that. Everything should come apart just fine, and you should be rest assured that as long as you took your time, used enough release agent, that you're not going to have any issues. Now, if you're doubting yourself, then certainly take it apart a little bit early when everything is still not completely hardened. But beware that if you take it apart too early, you're going to mess everything up. And you're going to have to scrape everything out or cut it out or grind it out and then start over. So I just make sure I use plenty of release agent, leave plenty of time. I usually let it sit overnight, and then I can separate it. And I know that once I'm done, it'll come apart. Sometimes you do have to use a mallet to pop them apart. I have had to use a mallet, but they pop right out with a good whack, and everything is usually a perfect imprint of what the gun was. Even the stamping numbers underneath, it comes out perfectly. So just take your time. Make sure you do your mixing well. I mixed that for about 5 minutes. I didn't get all the powder in there, but I wasn't concerned about all the powder. I probably put a little bit too much. There you guys have it. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Thanks.